Using mirrored UVs where you can is a great way to get more resolution out of your textures and to save yourself some time on the modeling and the texturing phase. Of course, you should have made it a conscious decision back at the high resolution modeling stage for the best results, and your low poly model should have been built with mirroring in mind too. If mirroring isn't something you've done much of before, I highly recommend trying it out. In a lot of game art, it's absolutely essential to eke out the most resolution possible, since the textures used in most games they are much more limited than cinematic or movie textures. You'd be surprised with what you can get away with and how much time you can save. Back when I was making armor for my jobs, I would even make the boot symmetrical when possible, and simply reshape the low poly model afterwards to fit the shape of the foot. You can often mirror front to back on things like shoulder armor, parts of gloves, and similar kinds of items. To illustrate that, I have this armor set that I made for Dota 2 for the Drow Ranger, and you can see it's fitted on her right now. And when you see the boot on the body, it doesn't look well. Maybe I hope it doesn't look like it's been mirrored across in X. But if you look at how I built it here, I built it straight up and down, and afterwards I just kind of shaped it onto the body. And similarly, there are some objects that I've mirrored in other ways here, like this upper leg part. It's mirrored front to back, but then I shaped it onto the body here. It's just so that it looks a bit more natural, but I'm still getting the benefit of having mirrored UVs. And the reason why I built it straight up like this, hope it's probably obvious, but just to make it easier within, like ZBrush when you're sculpting, it's just easier to keep things oriented in such a way where the program knows how to mirror across your strokes. The quiver is also mirrored. The bow is obviously mirrored going this way. And the shoulder armor, this is an example of just trying to be a little bit more creative, where I have actually two pieces going on here. And the top part is not symmetrical, but the bottom part is. I made it symmetrical front to back here, and then I just kind of threw on a shape on top of it, just so that when we look at it from a distance, it doesn't on here, except for just this front part of the hair. So just remember that mirroring UVs is something that is best planned for ahead of time. You really should take a moment before starting your model to analyze the concept art or your idea and see where you can do these kinds of things. You might even have to consider altering the design slightly to accommodate mirroring, if that becomes necessary. and whether or not it's necessary, it's just going to be a matter of experience. If I knew that I had, for example, a 512 by 512 map, and I knew of what the target quality was, then that would kind of decide on, oh, sorry, it would kind of determine whether or not I would consider mirroring the UVs. But I think for most games, even today, it's still a good idea to take this thing into consideration when you're building your own models. Especially with normal maps, this can be a difficult technique to use after the fact. So you really want your model to support mirroring to begin with, or else you run the risk of having normal map seams down the mirror line. If you're clever and ambitious, you can even arrange things so that parts of your model that is symmetrical has some asymmetry on it. What I mean by that is, let's say you wanted a pouch or something on the side of the skirt here that you didn't want to be on this side. There are a few ways you can do it, but you could make an external mesh and just kind of place it on there. But in my case, let's say it was more complicated than that. Like there was a strap that was supporting the pouch as well, and I didn't want to make it a separate mesh because I wanted it to follow the deformation of the skirt very closely, and didn't want to worry about interpenetration or anything like that. Well, the way I would approach something like that is, you could actually just cut it into this mesh that is already symmetrical. Let me see if I can show an example of that. But let's say, let's pretend that this is the shape that you want. I know that looks terrible, but what you can do is you can take this shape, you can map it, sorry, it's a really quick and dirty map. And we can, and then afterwards you could just soften these normals. Oops. But keep the borders where it connects with the original shape. Keep these hard, which they were. And then, just texture this shape separately. And you could get pretty involved with this. You can cut straps in, or whatever other shapes you want. And the benefit to this is that it's merged on here, so whatever deformation happens, it follows pretty closely. Well, in fact, exactly. And in this case, I would just make sure that clean things up. Don't want any n-gons anywhere. But you can see that the norm map still works just fine, even if I turn off. If I just go back to high quality rendering here. It still looks really clean along the edges. In fact, a little bit too clean. Like, you can see that this is when you look at it closely, it's obviously a shape that's on top. It's cut out. These edges aren't. They don't have the same kind of of integrated feel that if you had sculpted the normals on it, but in a lot of games, it's this is would be an acceptable result. I mean, especially on lower end games where you need to make a lot of variety and you have limited resources to do so. I mean, this can be a pretty nice trick to rely on, because that way you don't have to make this whole thing symmetrical. I mean, this still has the same UVs they were laid out. It's just that this particular part is cut out.